This Legends Lounge Spotlight highlights Olympic gold medalist DEEDEE Trotter. DEEDEE was an SEC, an NCAA, a US, a world, and an Olympic gold medalist and champion. And so I thought it was important when we highlight the mentality of legendary athletes that you have to go to someone who's been consistent at it, who's done it on all levels. And so this Legends Lounge Spotlight is DEEDEE Trotter. Thank you, DEEDEE, for coming.
Thanks, Carjay. Glad to be on the show.
Good. So I start these off and this series off with everybody asking them the same question, because I think the start and the origin of their recognition that they were different in their field or their endeavor is important. So when did you recognize that you had an ability to take this really far and to do it better than people around you?
I would say I probably recognized that in high school. I wasn't really your typical track kid, so I wasn't the kid who was doing summer track and all those things at a younger age. I really had dreams of playing basketball on a higher level, on a professional level. Like, that was my dream, to play professional basketball. So I was always in the mindset of going to the professional level in sport. It wasn't track and field, but that was where my mind was at. So everything I did in my life geared me towards college sports. When it comes to track and field, it wasn't until, I would say, high school is when I recognized that I had the ability to kind of maybe go to the next level. But the ignorance that I had in the sport, basically, I didn't know anything about track and field. I just did it. I would just participate. I didn't really follow it or understand any of the dynamic of what it took to make any improvements in life to that level. So it wasn't until college that it became a reality. I would say my sophomore year, it became a reality that there was a higher level to aspire to obtain. And that was 2003 when I made the world team. And
so up to that, like your freshman year, because I think for me, I had a privilege to see you run from the same county, DeKalb County. Shout out to the East Side of Atlanta. From the Cedar Grove High School days to the University of Tennessee days, and so knowing that you went into the University of Tennessee with the intention of, I'm going to be a 200-meter sprinter and I'm going to run, and so we're going to go race, and then seeing that it transitioned into a space to where your realization of, oh, it's a higher level after you made a transition in your sport. Like, what was the mindset behind you realizing that you had to be great here to take off?
I can't even really I can't really lie about it. I can't really find the words to kind of make that seem more strategic. It wasn't strategic. For me, it was literally about defining a goal and accomplishing the goal. If the goal was to get to the University of Tennessee in order to play basketball or whatever the goal was, I set the goal and I sought that after that goal. Whatever happens, whatever opened before me was what opened before me. When I got to Tennessee on track and field, the mentality wasn't about becoming a professional track and field athlete. The mentality was about running track to obtain the necessary requirements to pay for school. The degree was my motivation. And then from that point, it was like, oh, you work really hard. Every time I do something, I give it my all. So I'm working very hard. And no matter what I didn't know about track and field, because I didn't even know track and field was a profession when I was competing. I had no idea that this was an opportunity to go to the next level and participate in the Olympics. Like, that was never in my mind. Even though I grew up in Atlanta, 96 Olympics, we was outside.
Right down the street.
Outside playing in the park. Like, all of that was not really a thing in my head because I was so focused on basketball, I wasn't into track. So when I got to that, when my hard work resulted in success. That's pretty much what happened. I worked very hard. I made it to the NCAAs my freshman year. I think I became All-American that year, but I wasn't, and I was a SEC Athlete of the Week. I had a few standout moments during my freshman year, but it wasn't until my sophomore year that I released my dream or commitment to trying to pursue basketball, and I had to focus on track and field. That's a whole nother story. I won't bore you with the details of that. But I had to release my basketball dreams, and I was forced to focus on track and field. And at that point, I honestly went into it with a negative mindset. It was more like, let me just get the job done. I'm here. I need a degree. I can work hard. Let's get it done. And let's get through these 4 years and let's get out of here, you know? Mm-hmm. And that drove me to just, you know, like I said, I don't do anything without giving it my best. So I went into that with the mindset of achieve the goal and work as hard as you can at the goal in order to get to completion. Mm-hmm. Like for me, completion was very important. I can't start something and not finish it.
Okay.
So that was where that started to drive me. And once I got into the track and field world, 100% committed to track and field, that's when I started to see my hard work again create another opportunity. Yeah, it just kept snowballing into this.
So were you at that point in college, sophomore year, you 2003, like you said, you make the world championship team. Mm-hmm. Were you chasing potential, or were you chasing the realization of I got, like, I'm good? Like, were you, like you said, were things snowballing and the opportunities kept presenting themselves, and it's like, wow, if this is an opportunity, I'll be a fool not to chase this opportunity because I'm showing an ability to continually be great at this.
Yeah, I was, you know what, being good was never a forte for me. Like, I was always okay with the talent that I possessed and worked hard to make sure that I was always good. Mm-hmm. But for me, the transition of that year was about proving people wrong. So, you know, in 2003, I was on a path to prove everyone wrong. Mm-hmm. I came into Tennessee recruited as a long jumper, a 100-meter runner, and a 200-meter runner. And then when the coach that recruited me resigned in the middle of freshman year, the new coaches came in and said, "Hey, you're going to run the 400." Obviously, we clashed.
Right. It's right.
So they all wanted me to, you know, somehow just adapt to this mentality, like, seamlessly, and not have any, you know, not have any comebacks or rebuttals against this situation. We're just supposed to just dive in and be happy.
Go with it. It's 400.
And so I wasn't rocking with it. So I was pretty, you know, aggressive about. It was really well known that I was not on team. Let's do it their way. So for a while we kind of bumped heads, and it became clear to me that no matter my talent, no matter what I had already done in sophomore year, I had done several things. I made it to, like, again, I was an All-American. I made it to NCAAs in 2 events. Like, I was doing really well, despite the headbutting that was going on within the program, with me in the program. But I started to sense this, like, disbelief in me. Mm-hmm. I started to sense, like, people were just like, "Oh, she's really good, but she won't win the 400."
It came to an asterisk.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Me and Coach Carroll, Carroll, we made a bet. We made an agreement. The agreement was I would stop giving her so much trouble, mm-hmm. and she would back off if I ran the 400 at SEC. Mm-hmm. And SEC that year was held at Tennessee, so it was you know, a home turf type of race. And right. At some point I ran. She said, "You can run whatever you want up to that point, but SEC, you got to run it for me, and you got to run it at the run the 400." I said, "That's fine." So we came to agreement. I stopped giving her so much trouble, and she let me run, and I did what I was wanting to do. And at SECs, I could sense that nobody really believed that I would win the 400.
Walking to the line as you're walking.
You could sense it. Even the day before, people like, just go do your best, and, you know, give it, like, these sympathies.
Let's see what you can do.
Yeah, and I'm like, ugh, I'm like that. You know, so don't give me no sympathy.
Right.
I don't want that. Either you rock with me or you don't.
Dig it.
But I could sense in people's eyes and their energy and their flow that they weren't really believing that I could just walk out there after running no 400s all year, except for in relays, and go win the SEC championship. They were just like, at least we have somebody in the race.
Right. You know, we got a new midfielder. Okay. We got somebody in the race.
This is good. Let's go with it. So I get out there, and when that sense, that feeling that people just didn't really think I was capable of it,
Mhm.
it just motivates me.
You know,
So,
I remember reading on your website, DeeDeeTrotter.com, that you had that underdog sensation most of. Was that where it started? Was that the origins of where that feeling came from? Is that the space?
um, I would say if I think about it right now, that is an earlier recognition of that type of emotion being shown, and then me gathering it to utilize it for motivation. I could say that that's one point that I definitely can go back to. I might be able to go back to high school where I had a rival. There was a rival athlete, and she and I used to go back and forth. And I remember there was some people that were just, you could hear them saying, "Oh, she's never gonna beat her. Or she's not
Right,
gonna
right,
get
right.
her." And I'm like, "Y'all crazy, bro!"
I
Like,
know what you're talking about.
yeah. So I mean, those little things have always been like, to me, they're not things that make me feel down. They're not many things that feel like giving up. Those things kind of like fuel the fire for me. So when I hear someone doubt me, or when I see doubt or disbelief in people's faces or emotion, it fuels me. It's like, oh, bet I'm glad y'all feel this way. So I'm about to make believe that all y'all. You know what I mean?
So when
So
you win your SEC finals, you win the meet, right, at that
yeah,
year,
yeah, I won that one.
and,
Yeah.
and that was home track. And I remember right after the race, you're tired, you kind of grabbing a little bit. But what was your energy after you won that meet or the one that race? Was that relief, or was that like, I told y'all I was the shit? Like, I'm
The
good.
first the first thought is, I told y'all.
Right.
It was more like, see what
Right.
y'all thought. And I
Right.
remember telling my mom, I remember she came out the next day, and I told her, I said, they don't believe I can win it. And she's like, what makes you say that? And I was like, I can just something about how they walking and how they talk, and they just don't think I can do it. And I was like, but it's okay. It's all good. And like, I remember that literally was what pushed me to make sure, if there was anything that would have guaranteed me success that day, it was that
Okay.
that
Wow.
that
Okay.
push, that mentality.
You know,
That
I talked to one of the other legends, and she said that walking out to the line of the Olympic final, she heard a lot of noise, and no matter who they was yelling for, she was like, I felt like they were yelling for me. I had that energy for myself. So that galvanizing thing, you make a world championship team. At the end of 2003, you're flying back and from the world championships. Was that energy like, okay, I'm good, or did you have the energy of like, I think I can turn this up a notch?
um 2003, I'm not gonna lie, I was extremely ignorant to the sport.
Mm-hmm.
So that whole experience for me was very if it was not a good experience for your first time athlete who's being introduced to the world of professional sports, because at that point I learned a lot about politics. I
Mm-hmm.
learned about a lot about the unfair nature of how athletes are selected to run, and how you can literally be, it's not really about who's the best. Sometimes it's about who they want to participate in a certain event.
To be
And
seen.
yeah, it
Right.
was and for me, all I know about at that time, all I know about sports is who's the fastest, who's
Put them
working
out
the
there.
hardest,
Right.
whose results should get them the what they deserve. Like, to me, it's about fair play. It's about, if you're the fastest, why are you not out there? If
Diggity.
you've won, why are you not number one? Like, to me, that didn't make sense. I was like, I don't know about this world. This world doesn't seem fair to me. I don't know
Sports
how.
and entertainment. The coaching world is much like that.
Yeah, I was like, what is happening here? How did and so and I have to get there and fight for a position that I've earned.
Mhm.
I Against someone that I've beaten all year long. That this doesn't make sense. I'm here because I qualified. Like, it blew my mind. So that, and I'm the kind of person in general, and just in my regular everyday life, I fight for injustices. I'm the kind of person that tries to right wrongs. I'm the kind of person, like, I'm philanthropic. I'm just, this is, get the fair play for this man and that man. That's how I function in life. So this world really clashed with me for a minute, and I came back kind of like, I don't want to do this. I don't, I don't want to be a part of this, especially because it wasn't bred in me when I was younger. It wasn't like I had these track dreams. I had
the history of it, right?
Exactly. So I came back and I was pretty much just like 0% interest in pursuing that. I'm honest. I just didn't think that was how I wanted to drop. And I was like, yeah. And then realistically, to be 100, it didn't pay enough. They were at the time 2003, 2003. That contracts for women and $40,000.
Yeah, pennies.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm like, I'm going to college not to come out being a full-time manager at McDonald's. I can, I'm trying to pursue a different level of greatness, and I will not run my body into the ground for that. Like, to me, like I said,
preaching.
Respectfully, I know people have dreams of this, and I'm not trying to downplay the dream of it, but it wasn't my dream, so it wasn't worth the sacrifice to me. So I came back and I wasn't feeling it, but Coach Clark and Coach JJ Clark and Coach Carol Smith Gilbert, they came back and they said, regardless of, how things went down at Worlds, you did a great job. You had an excellent year. You ran 50-point consistently, and, agents are interested in shoe companies are interested in trying to work with you. So this is the first I've heard of this. So, my ears are open. I'm like, okay, so what's up? And they were like, yeah, well, at this point, we can only tell you so much, but there's offers or interest of you, and that interest is around $40,000 a year. And I'm like, nah, it's like, I'm good.
That's crazy. That don't sound.
I'm telling you, I can come out. I plan to come out doing better than that. So they said, let me tell you this. They said, but that number will change. They said that number will change to 6 figures if you beat Sonya Richards. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I wasn't really sure who Sonya Richards was.
Right. Dig it. I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that is the importance of why I wanted you in this, because you were able to go be so exceedingly great and elite at something that you didn't even recognize at the time while you were doing it. And I think that the highlight of what people in general need to understand in anything is, like, sometimes it shakes like that, And so don't even know Sonya Richards. Okay, so here's the juxtapose. You've got U.S. high school record holder, come out with these accolades out of high school, and you're like, yo, let me get through school. And let me go.
Let's get this degree.
You're right. Let me get through this to get this degree and keep it moving. And go make a world team, and these are goals. And then it's like Sonya going into a championship year with legendary coach, and you've got a legendary coach. But at the time, she was the young kid on the block, and so you've got all of these things, and you're in an environment, and you're being great on the go. As you're learning, you're being great on the go. And so having the recognition, I have to accomplish this goal to get this. And then you're training for that, and don't get ahead to the championship season outdoors part. But so as you're training through the year, even through indoor, what is your thought process through that time? Were you driven by the goal, or were you driven by, like, if I do this, I'm gonna get paid?
So it's I've never been driven by money, which is something that I wish along the way when I was competing professionally, I wish that was some of my motivation, but it's just not in me to be driven that way. Yeah, I don't know. I can't. It doesn't power me enough. Other things power me more. So when I was training that year, first I had to identify who Sonya Richards was. I don't say that to be funny. I literally say that I want people to understand the level of ignorance that I had.
That's 100. Just
it's
new
not
to it.
Like try to downplay her or nothing like that. She was very recognizable. I'm the one who was
new to the sport. Like, right.
So I had to first identify. I'm like, who is Sonya Richards? So my coaches, they looked at me funny, like,
what's wrong with you, girl?
It was like you was just on the team with her. I was like, which one? Because I was on the world team with her. I was. Right. We had made the world team together. She had got second at USA's. I had got third. Demetri Washington had got first. And I didn't know.
You just moving. Like, I got a track meet, Mom. I'm leaving. I got another meet.
And I wasn't, I was like, Coach Carroll loved this about me. She was like, I loved it and I hated it. She was like, but I could just tell you to do something and you would just do it because nothing else was in your sight. It was like, go beat this person. And you were like, which one? The one in the blue uniform. Okay. It was very simple for me. It was compete,
Right.
win, compete, give your best to win and compete. Like, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So I identified who she was. I was like, okay, that girl, I got it. That's what I got.
It's locked in now.
Yeah, locked in, got it. And literally, she just had a target on her back.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that hard to. I didn't have to focus on her very much because we weren't in the same conference.
Mm-hmm.
So I only saw her once in the year. I saw her.
That's so crazy to me, and I think that's gonna wake up the track side of people, is just realizing that, again, like you said, that was a standard given to you, and you recognize it in the back of your head. But as you're driving towards the goal of knowing that y'all are gonna connect at this national meet, and as you're driving towards that, were you driving at your practice sessions? Were you? And the good thing is you had a coach who I know is going to challenge you. You know, shout out to Kara Smith Gilbert. She's going to get at you and make sure that you're giving your best at a practice. But like, were you driving towards those national meets, or specifically that outdoor season, with that in mind? Like, we're going to line up, and I've got to make sure I'm ready.
Yeah, and that's what I like to tell a lot of younger athletes, because they will often miss the mile markers that are necessary to get to the final results. So yeah, I know that I'm going to see her at NCAA's, but she wasn't where I focused my energy until I got there. Mm-hmm. Because she was kind of like the backdrop of the overall goal. Mm-hmm. But in order to get there, you have to make sure you're focused on the necessities that are required to even make that point, make that a reality. So my goal was SEC champion, regional champion, NCAAs. Like, you have to be able to execute those micro goals in order to get to the big goal. And I see a lot of young athletes that are like, I'm going pro. I want to go pro. I'm like, great. But you got to win NCAA, so why shouldn't your mindset right now should be, I got to be NCAA champion. And what's going to get you NCAA champion? I got to be regional champion. What's going to get you to the regional champion? I got to be conference champion. So your mind should be set on accomplishing those goals to put yourself in position to even be qualified to do what it is you're setting out to do in the long run. So, you know, I can't emphasize enough the importance of micro goals. They are like,
was that something that you wrote down at the time, or were you cognizant of that mentally, or where were you at with that?
Let's see. Well, honestly, a lot of my developmental understanding of what went on came much later in life. I do consider myself to be an old soul. Yeah. Coach Carroll used to call me, she used to call me Gladys.
The alter ego.
Look on my workout, it would say Gladys. I'm like, why are you calling me that? She said, because you're 20 going on 40. And I would just laugh and I just, crack up. But I have always had this, ability to look outside of myself and look back and see what's happening and be able to assess it and actually understand and comprehend what I'm doing to get results. And I have had that ability for a long time. I'd be lying if I said I was that woke to it at the time. I wasn't that woke to it, but some of what I was doing was definitely intentional. Yes, it was definitely intentional. And then as I became more aware of the actions equating to the results, then it became more of the picture. And then the picture became more of the formula, and the formula became my blueprint of success. Yeah. So like it did develop to that point, but I've always been somewhat of an intentional person. I think that's something God has put in me from a very young age. And so with that being said, when I was making these moves, a lot of the motivation, again, was just to complete the task, to do what I set out to do, to finish. I'm not a quitter in any
and be your best at finishing it.
Yes. do
So
what you got to do, give it your best.
At the 2004 NCAA championships in Austin, Texas, Sonya Richards-Holmes track, she's running at her best, and Monique Henderson is running at her best at that time. So it was like, you've got this was a big dog track and field era when you were running in your event. Like, you had a premier event in track and field during your era. And so going to the line, your coaches give you cues, you're prepping. What was your mindset walking up into that point, like a major race, knowing how much was at stake, both from what you were you still driven by that goal of, people don't think I'm gonna pull this off? Or where was your mindset?
A couple of things going on, because that year a lot of people don't know or don't remember, but the rounds were canceled. One of the rounds was canceled due to a severe thunderstorm. Yeah. So one of our rounds got cut back. And at that point, that built up a lot of tension. We sat in a tent for like 4 hours that night instead of racing. And we were there pretty late waiting to see if the weather would pass, if we would be able to get this round going, and it didn't. They canceled the whole thing. So going into the next day or the next round or the finals at that point, it was an extreme amount of focus, and the focus was not on beating Sonya Richards at that point. The focus was on executing in light of the circumstances being a bit more challenging now. And I felt like it would be wasted energy to put all of my focus and everything on that person, when I need to be focusing on the perfect execution of a race. I don't know her as an athlete, really. I don't know her as a runner, really. I haven't competed against her all year. The runner I was most familiar with was Hazel Ann Regis, because I competed with her the most. She was like literally a question mark standing on the track. Like, I can't base my entire race off of this person who I have completely no idea what they're capable of, and except for what their time says on a piece of paper, So, and I'll tell you another thing that motivated me was that I was like unspoken of. I was like, what? Y'all didn't see this?
Like, look at these results. I got receipts.
I made the world team last year. Hold on a minute. I was like, I made the world team last year. Wait a minute. I was runner up last year. Wait a minute. I was SEC champion last year. Wait a minute. Who are we talking about? Why my name ain't on this list?
So, because I was going, so I'm going to ask you that later, because that's one of my questions that I wanted to bring up, because I think that wraps this whole thing with, like, so are you walking to the line? And I think it was important because you run a race that is totally different in race model style than most in the world. But you like you said, you had a mindset, I have to execute my race and what I know works for me. And if I do it my way, I'm going to be the best. Yeah. And that was, again, another reason when I first decided to do this, I wanted to highlight you, is because you had a way of being so great at your way, because can't nobody do it your way. And you know what I'm saying? And so knowing that you had to execute it your way and run it DEEDEE Trotter style, were you cognizant of that when they say runners on your mark? Were you like, let me just get to where I need to be and it's game on?
Absolutely. I was 100% zeroed in, focused on competing with only selfishness in mind, I guess you could say. I was very selfish to how I was going to run the race. I didn't really care what my coaches had said.
Right.
I was determined to run it the way that I felt was best, and it worked out, and I think that was smart, because, going back into the, right before we walked out on the track, we were in the back area warming up, and it was some straight crazy wind on the back stretch. I didn't know where it would be on the track, but I knew it was out there.
Right.
I was like, damn, this wind is crazy. Like, it was the Michael Jackson, you could lean forward and it would hold you up. Like, I was like, this is some Billie Jean-ass wind.
Right.
And I was like, this is crazy. I was like, this is crazy. It was super high winds that day coming off of the storm the previous night. Mm-hmm. So I said, I just need to be, Coach was like, You feel that wind? I'm like, yeah, I got it. You know, me
Locked
and Coach Carol, we only say a few words. We don't talk a lot.
That's energy, right?
So she said, you feel that wind? I said, yeah, I got it. She's like, okay. She walks away. Got on the track. I didn't feel it in the turn. I was like, this wind is somewhere out there.
Let me wait.
Be ready. I didn't know where it was going to show up. I just knew it was going to be there. So on your mark, get set, go. Now, I want to tell you another funny part of the story. I don't know who Monique Henderson is.
Right, but see, I said that for the track world because I think it's important that they understood, like, you were living greatness and just not even knowing what was going on.
I had no idea who she was. I had never heard of this person. Literally, the first time I heard of her was when we came across the finish line. I never heard of her. It was beyond me. Ignorant to the fault. I mean, but I like to think that ignorance is bliss sometimes, because I know a lot of athletes that have gotten completely psyched out of their own race because of who they knew. Mm-hmm. That blindness for me was beautiful. You know, I later on learned in life that blindness was absolutely remarkable for performance.
I heard that.
But I got on the line. On your mark, it said go. Boom. We take off running. We and those two maniacs, Monique and Sonia, they were out of the hole like I was like, first I was like, well, I can't do that.
Because that ain't gonna be well for me.
That ain't where my speed is at right there. So I'm all right. I'm Gucci with y'all going ahead and going on with that. So I'm like, I'm just gonna do me.
Right.
So they get out the hole like rabbits and they are gone. And they get on the backstretch and they took off they hit another gear. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I feel this resistance. So I was like, oh, there she go, the wind. Right. Okay, I knew she was.
There go the wind. I knew she was out here hiding.
I just didn't know when. And so when I felt that pressure on the backstretch, I was like, okay, let me relax. So I dropped my shoulders and I start kicking it on the backstretch. Mm-hmm. Like you would have thought I had just started running a 1500.
Right.
Okay. I was back there kicking it. And I know my coach probably pulled out every mic.
Like what?
So I was like, let me just wait till I get to 200 and then I'm gonna go. Like it was that simple for me. I was like, once I get out this wind, I'm okay.
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm be good. Now that was for many people that may not have worked, but for me, my strength, I was a finisher. Mm-hmm. I know I'm a finisher. I know that I get a kick out of, I get a adrenaline rush out of coming down the last 200 meters and running people down. Like that's what I do. It's my magic. So I'm not gonna play myself out my magic card by doing a race that's not mine. That's their race. Y'all go do that. That's not me. So I kept on riding down the backstretch like nothing was important that day. And then I got to 200 meters. That wind kicked off to the side, and I was like,
game time.
Let's go. So, it was like a race that started for me. I came around that last 100 meters, and I know I still see the shock. Mm-hmm. I still see the shock in the body language as I passed them, because I didn't just come up on them and
it was fast, right?
It was like a shh, like that.
Collegiate record at that time.
Yes,
that
was, it was
like listen,
and track record, and it was crazy, yeah. But like it was the moment where I saw the tension, like. You know, when you feel the runner next to you, they kind of like,
oh shit. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That moment. And I was like, goodbye.
Right. When you crossed the line, because I remember it being quiet, like Photoshop stadium. What was your energy like? Was it the flex inside, or were you like, okay, now let's have the conversation that we said we was gonna have, because I did the goal. I finished. And I think that's so important. That's a consistent thing. Like you started this off with saying you were a finisher.
Yeah.
Like just by nature and everything you do. And so your strength, your big joker card is your finish. And so like, was that something that were you like, I told y'all, where was that at that time? Because that's going into your first Olympic Games. And so that's your major first win on a major scale. Where were you at that point?
Yeah, at that point, I crossed the finish line and I was exhausted because, I did do a heck of a run. And I just remember the relief of being like, this is over.
Right.
Over. I chased this the whole year. Mission accomplished. Like, yes. And I remember the sense of the delayed cheer.
Mm-hmm.
It was like,
What happened? I remember
but
that.
I also remember, and this is my favorite moment, I remember the cheers as the crowd welled as I was passing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that cheer I can't get out of my mind because it just rose up and it was just like, ah! Like they were like, oh my, what's happening?
Yeah.
And then they were quiet. They were like,
Yep.
yeah. I'm like, okay, but yay for me. And so again, I'm going to tell you the truth, Carjay. The magnitude and the importance and the beauty of what I had done in sports never hit me until after I got back from the 2004 Olympic Games. And at that point, I'm a gold medalist in the relay. I led the relay off with a 49.18 second split on first leg. I literally.
I'm gonna put those links below for you guys, so check those out. But yes, I'm gonna put those links.
I finished 5th in the 400 out of lane 1, and I mean, I ran my butt off. You know, I should have had a better year that year. I have one regret in my entire career, and that is 2004 semifinals, letting Tonique Darling get first place
and get that lane drop.
Yeah, I didn't realize, I was ignorant to the sport. I didn't understand that winning wasn't enough, and that qualifying as a big Q, as I like to call it, as a place qualifier, didn't secure you a good lane. It just made you in this random selection of lanes. So the lane I got in 2004 really wasn't the lane that I deserved based on performance. And so like I said, I've always been based on performance. I just didn't make sense to me that you would give somebody a lane that a non-preferred lane for a person who worked their butt off to be in a preferred lane. So that is one regret I have in my sport, side note. But going into the 2004 games, I came back with so much great success. I came back with an Adidas contract. I came back with Olympic gold medal. I came back Olympic finalist. And I came back with 50.00 new school record. Great things happened, and none of that affected me. I was still like.
So you still had no clue of your level of. That's crazy, DeeDee.
It's still crazy. But let me tell you when it changed. University of Tennessee, they had the homecoming event. Yes. And they invited all the Olympians. They made me the Grand Marshal of the Olympian, and we went to Neyland Stadium, one of the largest stadiums in the collegiate realm. Okay. Yeah, we get in there. Yes. We get in there, and they let us run through the power tee with the football team. Crazy. Now, this was, I'm sorry, that was lit. I'm sorry. I was like, this is so exciting. We get to run through the tee. You can feel the energy of those, like the big football players and the smoke, and they done got it, And I was like, wow, this is so exciting. And so I was more excited about running through the power tee than anything. And so we get into the stadium, and they start announcing everybody who was part of the Olympic team that year. And I believe at that time I was the only one who had a gold medal. Right. They were announcing everybody, and they saved me for last. And they said, and University of Tennessee's very own Olympic gold medalist, DEEDEE Trotter, and the whole Neyland Stadium stood to their feet and started clapping. And I'm like, I cried. I literally, and even to this day, when I tell the story, I feel tears like coming to my eyes. I cried for the first time. And at that moment, I understood the magnitude of what I had done. And it was only that I was able to recognize it on a level where I'm not in my arena. I'm a female.
I'm being recognized.
Yes.
And see, that's a question. I'm gonna tell it to you now, but I don't want your answer now. I want your answer on the back end of do you feel like you ever got the respect due now that you look back on it as you were living it? But don't answer that now. Answer that later. So, but okay. So first Olympic Games, boom. Leading up into your second Olympic Games, you have an injury, and this is what made me really, as a person that saw it happening, really made me be like, oh, yo, she's crazy, crazy good. Because I remember, and I'm gonna let you tell the story about your knee. And I remember going into the Olympic trials of you not having run fast, not even being in like the top 20 in the US, like 53 seconds, you know, and with PR of 50.49 seconds on that time, but like 49 seconds, and he was 53 seconds just making it to the meet. Going to the meet with a knee brace on at the Olympic trials, and it's like, I've got to make my second Olympic team. And I remember seeing you at a Chili's, and I was like, "Are you good? How's your knee?" And you said, "I don't have a knee problem." And I was like, "Oh shit! Well, she's in a brace. She don't got no knee problem." That to be able to like be that zoned out. And so talk about the ability, knowing that you were not at your best, but you had to be your best to make this your second Olympic team, because now this is a goal. Like, this is something I have to finish.
Yeah. There was several points, key points that 2008, that one of the biggest struggles in my life actually brought out of me in order for me to have greatness throughout the rest of my career. Mm-hmm. So I know for a fact that I would not have had the success I had later in my career had I not gone through the struggles that I went through in 2008.
Right.
Taught me what I needed to learn, what I needed to know in order to win. Like, again, like I said, that blueprint is always constantly growing. And as the blueprint of success continued to show me what was necessary, is what it's just a matter. Like, I love failure.
The best teacher.
I love failure. Failure is so important, and it has literally molded me into being able to achieve what I've achieved in sport and in life, period. But the first thought that I have when I think about what pushed me to develop the attitude that you ran into at Chili's that day was the doctor, my knee doctor. He told me, Dr. Mathian, he said, what you're going to be able to accomplish will be up to you. Once he told me what was wrong with my knee, and he said it would require surgery. Did you have a chondral defect? It requires surgery. A lot of athletes don't come back from the surgery. It's a 90% of them don't, And so I said, okay, so what can I do? Like,
right.
We got a few months to the Olympic trials, like,
and I got to get this done.
And he said, what you'll be able to accomplish will be completely up to you. Mm. Now, I don't think that he was saying it in a way that was super profound. I think he was being literal. Like, I can't tell you what you can't do. What you'll be able to accomplish with this knee will be what you're able to push yourself through.
Right.
But for me, those words hit me hard. And I thank him for those words, because when he said that, I said, oh, if it's up to me,
then I'm going, yeah. I'm
literally, I was like, oh, if it's up to me, we good. So you telling me I can make this do whatever I want it to do, within reason. Mm-hmm. So I said, at that point, he put together a plan for a series of cortisone injections, which really didn't do nothing. Honestly,
don't take away knee pain. I've had knee surgery. That don't take away knee pain.
He said it's like putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound, but good luck.
Listen, that don't take away nothing knee related.
It didn't do anything. It helped minimally with inflammation, but it was really just, like I said, it didn't do much. But I took whatever I could get. And I went out there and started racing, and like you said, the races failed. The first race failed horribly, 53-something seconds, coming off of 49.64, coming off of a lifetime
U.S. champion,
coming off of a lot of things. And coming off of a super training, preparing to be the Olympic champion, training that way for the 3 years prior, So it was challenging to go through that series of losses, but I needed them. So I lost that race, 53, and I went to another race. I ran another 53. I'm almost running 54 seconds. At that point, my last race was 53.90 something. Mm-hmm. And, I'm getting frustrated, but, Coach Carroll said something to me that she was the next, mile marker, and how I got that mentality that you witnessed. She said, you're still trying to be who you used to be.
Mm-hmm.
She's
just
like,
to the new you.
Yeah, you're still trying to run the same way, train the same way, And at that point, I didn't have Coach Carroll at that point. Coach Carroll had went to UCF. And I was blessed enough to have another coach there who was able to, help connect me and Coach Carroll's agenda and connect our workouts and implement his own. And that is, I think that was a very big thing to have someone as motivating and as inspiring and as positive.
And shout out to Coach Elliott, head coach at Purdue right now, and so Purdue University, and so knowing that there were everybody's help, like pushing, because we recognize, and it's like as a collective, and you have a village that's supportive of this, and you're not at your best.
Yeah.
How did that weigh on you, but also motivate you going into your like you said, running 54 seconds, and knowing that you're not at your best? How did that weigh on you, but also motivate you to go and make your second Olympic team?
Coach Elliott played a huge part in it, and I was just trying to reflect on the magnitude of positive. He was so positive when the shit was hitting the fan. I come back with a 53 something race, and he's like, DEEDEE Trot, you can't worry about that. We're gonna get we're gonna get out here. We're gonna start. I'm gonna do some. What do you think you need? Do you think you need some
willing?
You just have to have that person who's just, and he works so well with Coach Carroll. There was no egos. There was no, a lot of people don't realize. They think I spent my whole career with Coach Carroll, which in majority of that is true. But there was this point where Coach Elliott was, he was the foundation of my stability, because he was this positive fixture that wouldn't go away and always had the right thing to say and would just get down with me.
Yeah.
And he'd get down with me in order to help get back up. He was like, okay, so we hit the bottom. What do we do from here?
Right. Because we're going to work through this, right?
Yeah, like, okay, we're down here, and how do we get up? So he's really the kind of person that'll come sit on the floor with you and try to figure it out. So I used his positivity to keep pushing. And then and in the interim between the races, there was a lot of things that motivated me. One of the biggest motivators I had was going to Prefontaine. At that point, I had ran 3:53 almost.
Right.
And I'm still USA champion though. So I've been invited. I've been on the list. You can't take that away from me.
Right.
I got a lane, So I get there, and most of the time I have my cell phone off. I never keep my phone on because you get the most ridiculous distractions from your
wrong time.
Exactly. So I had my phone on by mistake, and I get a phone call from my agent, and it's literally hours before the race, like mere hours, to the point where I'm getting dressed. And I get a phone call, and he says, my agent says, don't come to the track. They've kicked you out of the race. And I said, excuse me? The joke.
Right.
And I'm not kidding you, Carjay. I know it sounds like a scene from a movie, but I literally had one leg in my uniform. I was sitting on the side of the bed. I had one leg in my uniform. I was getting dressed.
That's crazy.
And the phone rings. I picked the phone up, and he's telling me not to come to the track. And I said, what's up? He said, I've been fighting with these guys all night, and they're just not hearing. They because of the times you run in the previous races, they've kicked you out. They're gonna pay you first place prize money for coming. So
I got a free trip, but still you've taken away what I came here to do.
For fun, So I was like, no. I was like, I told him straight up, I said, I don't need the money. I need the race. I've got something. I'm working through this. I'm telling you, one more race, and I'm working. I'm trying to figure it out now. I need the race, not the money. He said, I've been fighting with them all night. They're not changing their mind. They've already replaced you. They put a girl from China in your lane. Wow. I said,
what was your What was
What
the?
lane was it? Lane one? Like, I'm over here fighting for lane one. Like, dang, you know. So at that moment, the reality set in, and I'm not gonna lie, I went through this moment of like, it was like getting hit by a bus, like boom. And then I felt the tears start to come up in my eyes, and just the frustration of feeling like, how can I do what I need to do if they won't even let me run, you know?
Yeah.
And at that point, I hung up the phone with him, and it took about, maybe 30 seconds. And I said, I heard this little voice in my head that said, nah, don't quit.
Stay steady.
You got to keep going. The little voice was like, I had this saying, it's, I can, I must, I will. I can, I must, I will. And so I heard that little voice say that, and it was like, don't give up. Like, you got to keep going. So I called him back, and I was like, hey, Mark, get me a race anytime, any place, any city, any state. I don't care. I just need one more chance. And he said, all right, I'm on it. So he literally jumps up, he calls and gives me a race in Claremont, Florida. And I get out there and I ran the most unique race of my life. And let me tell you, you asked the question. The question was, what sets you up for that push? That motivated me.
Mm-hmm.
Getting kicked when I was already down, knowing that this is potentially my last chance to run, like knowing that there's a 90% chance I will not be able to come back from this injury.
Right.
There's a lot on the line here, and so if I stop right there, that's the end of the journey. Like, nah, I gotta go until I'm the kind of soldier that will crawl on their elbows and they knees and
right.
Like, I'm that soldier. Like,
right.
That's me. I'll keep crawling. My legs could be blown off, and I'll be like, no.
I got a job to do, right?
so I at that point, I feel like I'm down. I have no other options, and that at my lowest point, I had to say, "Is this how you want this to end? Is this how you want the story to be told? Is this how you want the legacy to be remembered?" She came, she fought, she sat at home with one leg in her pants, like.
Right, and that's how she went out, right?
Yeah, I was like, nah, that ain't how my story going. And I'm gonna run until the doggone leg fall off. And
when you go to Claremont, I run 52 seconds, I believe it was like
51.9.
51.9. So run 51.9. Now, was you like, okay, now like all right, the cobwebs is off now. Like I'm in better space, and you get back up to Eugene, Oregon, where the meat that kicked you out is held again. So you get a little PTSD of being in the same space as you're walking out to the track to go right. Going through rounds, you mentally have put in the back of your head, my knee's jacked up, but I control the performance. So I'm going to go out here and do this. And you're going to the finals. You at this time, you know who Sonya is. Y'all made some teams together and competed the world together. And it's like, all right, game on. I'm out in lane 7 or 8 out in the outside lane. So at this point, it's like, all right, here we go. Let's see what's up. Yeah. Where were you at going and the race is about to go off? You're in your blocks. Were you mentally confident that, okay, I've made it through 3 rounds and I'm ready? Or were you just like, stick to the plan, execute, and we good to go?
It was a build-up. I'm going to take you back just a couple of races, but I'll move it up quickly. So after winning the Claremont race, the 51.9, it gave me some positive power. I like to call it as progress. I teach this in my motivational speaking, that progress is power. So that little bit of progress, no matter how big or small it was, it made me feel more powerful. It gave me more confidence, and confidence is power. So this is all making me a more powerful person, right? So I get to USA's and I feel more confident. I feel more powerful, even though if it was a little bit. And I know it takes 49 to make the team. Right. Because in 2007, we ran 3 49s to make the team. I already know what I know.
They're going to bring it, right?
So I say, I know my 51.9 isn't good enough, but it's progress. And we like progress. We're going to take progress and we're going to use it to get where we need to be. So the first round, I made it through no problem. That's usually the easiest round, but my knee was killing me, but there's something I always like to tell this part of the story because I feel like it's important. I never let nobody see my pain. Yeah, I had the knee wrapped up and everything, but I didn't want to give anybody any extra confidence because I know for a fact if you can look at somebody and say, I can beat them.
Yeah. It
Something
urges
about
you a
that.
little bit.
Feeling that power that you get from that, it can work. I didn't want to give nobody much power. I didn't want to give that 53-second girl that chance to be like, I can run 52 today.
Right.
You don't want to give that 51-second girl no extra power. Talking about, I'm going 50 points today. Like, no. So I was like, I walked off like nothing was wrong with me every round. I would just walk off. I wait till I get in the back. I deal with my situation.
And then when you're away from the eyes, you can lay out.
Cover. I dealt with everything undercover, but to everybody else, I walked off like nothing was wrong with me. Anybody asked me about my knee?
Yep.
You heard what they got. What's wrong with your knee? I don't have a knee problem. What do you mean? No, my knee's fine. I'm good.
You did.
I just wear this bandage because it looks straight. It looked good.
Yeah.
Like, that it's about what you say. Mm-hmm. A lot of times we can speak ourselves out of our blessings. We can talk ourselves out of our destiny. We can talk ourselves out of our accomplishing our goals by the things we say. So by saying and admitting I'm hurt is only giving that power to my mind to identify and give that energy that it's not the right energy. I want the energy to be it's healed, it's functioning, it works. So those 2 rounds, I sweated out. I thugged them out, but I was like, hey, only 1 more to go. You live to fight another day, each round.
Right.
So I get to the finals. I'm in lane 7, and the only thing on my mind is don't go out here and do something crazy.
Right.
Don't go out here and just completely lose your mind trying to fight extra hard because you have a slight issue or you have a disadvantage. Mm-hmm. Like, don't overcompensate.
Right.
Go out here and just be as strategic as possible. And the key word in my mind is execute and race. Mm-hmm. Like, my execution plan was unstable because my knee was unstable.
Yeah, right. I get it.
So it was more about just race. Be smart. Look around. Run a smart race. Be there. Attack. It was all about like power words. Grit. Like it was straight up like give your best, like straight up power shit. Just
right.
Words of encouragement, affirmations, like. So I get to the starting line, and I just close my eyes, and the gun goes off, pow, and the race takes off. Now I'm cool.
Mm-hmm. I'm being in my space.
Be in your zone. Mm-hmm. Then I see people starting to shift, and I'm like, can I shift?
I got one, and I got to play this smart right now, right?
I can shift. This is maybe not, So, and real talk, I get to the 100-meter mark, mm-hmm. and with the 100 meters to go, I'm in like 7th place. Mm-hmm. Now, I've seen this before. I've seen it the last three races prior to the Claremont race, and the familiarity of that at that point of the race being in last place, because at those races when I was running 54 seconds, I was last place at 100 meters to go. So the familiarity of the positioning and the repetition of that happening over and over again, there was an immediate like feeling of it's over.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I love this.
Because it had happened so many times, and this is where people get caught up. I want everybody who's watching to listen very closely to this. You can lose so many times at what you're trying to do that it will start to feel familiar to you. And when you even see anything remotely like it, or you experience anything remotely like it, you will have an involuntary response to help the action be completed as it was in the previous times it occurred. So instead of my mind saying, oh, you're at 100 meters to go and you're at 7th place, you're almost last place, and keep going, my mind said, oh, you know what happens here. From this point,
went back to trauma.
Yeah.
Back to the space.
Yeah. It's like PTSD. It's like you're gonna lose right here. This is it. Just go ahead and give up. And for a split second, that's what happened. I got to 100 meters, in a split second it said, "Oh, you know what happens here. This is about to be over." And I said, "Oh no!" Like
you're warring within yourself.
Exactly. I was in an internal battle. Mm-hmm. And for a split second, it said, "It's over." And I said, no, I had to like snap myself out of it. And I was like, I've been through too much. I've been through too much pain. I've worked too hard. I've come too far. And this could be my last race. Ain't no way in hell I'm going to just give up. Right. Now, if all I have in me is last place,
right.
Hands up. But if I have anything left in me, I'm not going to leave it in here to chance. So I'm going to go ahead and let it out. So it went from you only have 100 meters to go, you should give up, to you have 100 meters to go, there's still a chance.
Go hard.
So as long as there's some real estate on this track, give what you got. So I just started running. I was like, it was quick though. It was like, give up. And it was like, no, you can't keep going. And I was like, boom. And I was like, okay, go. And I started running. And I started barreling down the home stretch. And it was like, and I could hear the people cheering. And the more I heard the cheers, the more it just made me feel like, okay, go, I keep going.
I'm catching folks.
I went from 7th to 6th to 5th to I was finally in 4th. And I'm in 4th place and I'm battling with Monique Henderson, who I know very well at that point. Mm-hmm. And so I'm battling with Monique Henderson. Her and I are battling it out. And we both lean at the finish line. And we both ran the same exact time. It came down to the 1/100th of a second difference. And I got 3rd over.
Right.
Yeah. So I made the Olympic team by just that much. Like,
do you think that in that instinctual switch coming down the home stretch, was that you going back to the finish it model, that you're just like, yo, this might be my last chance. Let me finish this shit. If I know I've got something in me, empty the tank.
Yeah. Everything about me, Carjay, everything about the person I am, the athlete I am, is about completion. I never like to leave a task undone. When I say undone, finished is not always necessarily the point where you reach the finish line. Finished can mean a number of things. Just like winning could mean a number of things. You know, you don't always have to get a medal in order to win. So when I think about the mentality that I have as an athlete when it comes to the mindset of execution and completion, for me, completion, if me completing that race and having the mentality of just, you have to get it done. Even if I lost, even if I didn't make the team, because I did lose, I got 3rd, which is technically losing the race.
Right.
But in my mind, even if I had got 8th that day, but I poured it out and that's all I had, I'm okay with giving all I have. When I'm not okay is when I don't give everything I have. That's when I can't sleep. That's when I can't stop thinking about the race. That's when it's harder to put behind you. That's when you
was that the reason, and going back to that 2004 experience, was that one of the reasons why even after making the Olympic team, you go to the Olympics and it's like, I know that I can't give my best in this capacity?
Yeah, you know, at the Olympic Games, when I was going through the rounds, the first round I knew I was okay, but in the training session about 4 days before the rounds, I was running 150s. And I literally, that training session was my Olympic final. I went out in the mindset of training and I thought my knee was okay because I had been kicking ass with it. And I had one last practice in me. I didn't know it. I had one last good run in me. I didn't know I was running out of time with the knee. And I blazed out some 150s at practice, or actually they were 120s. I blazed them out. And let me tell you how much I blazed these out. Shout out to Allison Felix. No lie. I blazed out these 120s at practice. Allison Felix came over to me and she said, "What were you running?" And I was like, 120s. And she was like, they look fast. And I was like, they were. I was like, I just ran 2 PRs at practice. And she was like, they look fast. They look really good. And I was like, thanks. Now coming from Allison Felix,
yeah, like, I'm good, I'm ready, right.
And I knew I was blazing. And I was like, I've been ready. I've been ready for this shit for 4 years. Like I've been like, you know, like I'm like, this knee was just causing me some setbacks, but it's Gucci now. I'm ready. Like, so, you know. And when she doubled down on that, because getting that compliment from her, it was like, again, it's more power, you know, like I was like,
yeah.
She's not on my squad. She's not with my coach. She's not with my team. She was standing out there looking, watching, and she saw something and she thought enough of it to say something, which encouraged me. But I didn't know that was my last. I pushed my knee to the point.
How did you take that defeat? Because that's a defeat of not being able to accomplish. Like, what was that dagger like?
You know, and that one, it didn't hurt as bad as if it was, you know, kind of self-inflicted, because I had an issue that was preventing me from being able to be my best. But to get back to your original question about the relinquishing of my spot on the relay, if there's even the slightest chance that I can't
risk them.
Yeah. So it wasn't really thinking about me at that point. The responsibility of thinking about the overall team, the win for our country, just and the, you know, the disappointment it would bring to the 5 other women on the squad, I just couldn't chance it. You know, so I warmed up and I said, if I can't sprint, I can't go. So I tried to do a full-out acceleration. And again, what I felt in the semifinals, it was there. And I said, if I can't make it around the track, and I'm telling you, the coaches were pulling for me. They were like, well, DeeDee, we're going to put you on anchor.
And
we're going to get you a lead. All you got to do is bring it around. And I said, yeah, I think it's a great strategy. I just don't know if I could make it around. And if it was just me, I would have tried it.
Right, this ain't happening.
Yeah, so I said, nah, I can't go. And it was hard. It was one of the hardest things I ever had to do because at that point, that is the end of that is the end of that season. Mm-hmm. And that is potentially prior to surgery.
Career ending.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like you those next 3 years, you go have surgery. I had knee surgery too. It's hard as hell to come back from. It's one of the most painful.
Yeah.
I don't understand. So like those 3 years leading up to 2012, did you feel that you were at your best going into the 2012 Olympic trials, knowing that this is my 3rd Olympic team that I'm going for? I've run well. I'm good. My knee, I'm healthy. Where were you at as far as preparation and then confidence? Where was your confidence going into your 3rd Olympic trials? Where this is clockwork by now for you.
To skip over those 3 years where I got my ass handed to me directly. I had the surgery in for 3 years. I would lose so many races. I can't even tell you how many. I had glimmers of hope, specifically indoors, but I couldn't make it outdoor season. I could not have a successful outdoor season. I couldn't break 51 seconds for 3 years. So for 3 years, I could not break that 51 second mark. I was stuck. And in 2012, they said stay away from Olympic lifts, period. But as you know, and as I quickly learned, without them, you're not an Olympian.
Ain't happening. Not at that level. That's not happening.
They don't call them Olympic lifts for nothing. Without them, you're not an Olympian. Right. So I learned quickly that all of the people at UCF really played a huge role. They were a small program, which allowed them to really focus and help out in the way that they did for me. And I owe a lot of my success, my ability to come back, to their patience and their diligence and their hard work to work with me to get me back to 100. But they got me right physically. But the bigger question is, how did I get right mentally, right?
Exactly, because that's
after 3 years
of this, right.
I didn't even know I had a problem, Carjay. I didn't know I had a problem. I swear it on everything. I went to Virginia Tech, run in the little invite. I did really well. I mean, I won the race. I ran like 51 seconds, something. I did good. That was a good race at indoor time. It was a really good indoor time. And then I came back. I was like, bet, I'm going to nationals. So I go to nationals, and I'm so glad I went because it showed me that I had a glitch in the mental system.
That can come back. Okay.
Yeah. So I get to nationals. I go through the first round. I'm good. And then I'm in the finals with Natasha Hastings and Natasha Hastings is a very aggressive starter.
Yes, so fellow Olympic gold medalist. Shout out Tasha.
And she goes out very aggressively, and somebody else in the lane in the heat with her went out aggressively as well. I want to say it was Tanya, but I could be mistaken. And they go out aggressively, but that doesn't faze me. I know that about them. I know that about my running style is different. I don't get fazed by people going out hard. So they go out hard. I was like, okay, I just got to make my moves. Well, I get around to the 200 mark, and I'm right in position where I want to be. It's a great position. All I got to do is ride and kick, you know? So at about the last 150 coming into the final turn, the stupid little voice pops up in my head and was like, it's over.
Wow.
And it shut. This time, at the time when it happened in 2008, I was still too close to victory. But over 3 years of failure,
yes,
I wasn't close enough to victory anymore.
Right.
So I was able to snap out of it quick in 08. But this time, I went into autopilot, like shutdown mode. So I'm coming around the turn, and it's like, it's over because I wasn't winning. And then my body shut down.
Wow.
It was like an automatic autopilot shutdown.
Energy shut off.
Yeah. And I was like, what? And I felt my body like reduce its energy and its speed involuntarily. And then I was like, no, what are you talking about? It's over. And I kicked it back on, right?
I'm moving again. But this was a longer mental space gap this time.
Man, it was a this. In 2012, it was a 20 meters.
Dig it. Full on sentences.
And so I was like, what? I literally felt my body shut down. My brain told my body that it was done. And then I told my body to turn back on. And then it was like, but it's over. And then it shut down. Literally, I was going like this, like, wow.
Wow.
And when I crossed the finish line, I called Coach Carroll and I said, I just lost my first race. And she's like, what? I said, I just lost my first race. In all of my career, I've never, You
never beat you.
Exactly.
Right. I get it.
And I'm like, I literally just lost this race for myself. I was in a mental battle with myself at 150 meters to go. I've never experienced anything like it before. My body shut down on me because it felt the similarities in the race and over the
of loss.
Yes. Mm-hmm. It just felt it, and it was like, oh, it's over, and it shut down. I said I had so much more in me. I was physically capable of running, and there was nothing wrong with me. Mm-hmm. She's like, well, what you gonna do about it?
On to the next.
I'm like, yeah.
So when you're leaving a meet like that, recognizing this is the first time in my career that I lost it for myself, was it galvanizing towards that Olympic trials, your third Olympic games? Were you steady and like, if I keep my head in it because I know my body's ready now? Did you do the work mentally at that point to make sure that you didn't have that happen again?
Absolutely. And I'm so glad it happened during indoor season, Carjay, because had it not happened then, I would have started the outdoor season unaware of this. I was completely unaware of it. I was at practice, geek, turn up. What are you going to do? I'm going to be a champ. What you going to do? Olympic champ? Like, I had no idea I had this problem. It was a hidden, sometimes you don't even know how low your confidence is.
And it'll pop up on you at the most inopportune times in life. Like, it's like, whoa, I thought I dealt with that.
But I was good. Thought I overcame that. No, so I had that sense of like, you gotta fix this before this gets any worse. Like, I needed that loss on both levels to figure out that I even had that problem. And when I figured that out, I changed the game for myself mentally in a way I had never utilized my mental strengths before. I came up with a completely new winning strategy, a mentality that I use every single day, a mentality that I preach, a trademark that I own. I can, I must, I will. Like, you know, it's completely, it took me to another level. I needed those.
What was your going? Okay, because and again, that's why I said earlier, like, that was, you could see that change throughout your career of your ability to really tap in when you needed to tap in. And so going into the Olympics at that time, did you think that was your last one, or were you like, yo, I'm feeling good, I got it now, I'm fixed, I fixed my deficiency mentally, I'm healthy, game on?
Well, mentally, I knew that I could overcome anything. At that point, I've proven mental toughness on numerous occasions. My mental toughness and my mental tenacity was definitely in a league of its own. I consider it to be in a league of its own, because I was one of the athletes that was super diligent about taking care of their bodies. I wasn't one of those baby game athletes that shows up to the ice tub once a month.
Oh, not yet.
I wasn't that athlete. You know, I was the one that goes into the chiropractors and to the massage therapist every week, and I'm on top of it. I don't play around, you know. So being that was my nature, I was determined to do that, with or without some body parts wanting to participate.
I was gonna drag my elbows. So in 2012, your Olympic final, 400 meters, I remember watching it with Cleo. We was in the apartment, and for 300 and about 80 meters of that race, we had lost our mind, because we was like, DeeDee about to win this damn gold medal. And the link will be below for those to watch. But like, was that where, when you crossed the line and you're like, yo, I'm an individual bronze medalist, I read my I knew you was tired as hell. You could see how tired you were. But was it relief, gratitude, or was it, where were you at in the space of knowing that was your third Olympic Games, and it's like, whew, you know, what was that weight like?
It was a little bit of a mixed emotion, and I always like to be very honest about this, because I think anyone who's pursuing greatness needs to realize that there is no, I don't think one emotion can ever sum up what it is you feel, even when you accomplish the goal. So in that moment, I crossed the finish line, and my mindset going into this race was not to get third. I need everybody to understand that. I did not go into the Olympic finals with the mindset of getting third place. If I went into the race with that mindset, I would have got sixth. You don't go into the race expecting to get less than number one, okay? So I went into the race with the mindset to win. I went into the year with the mindset to win. I went into every single practice with the mindset to win. And I used every single loss, every single failure, every single disappointment, every single thing that had been in my way to continue to push me to have that mindset that every time it rains at practice, it's raining at the Olympic Games. That's the mentality. I envision myself on the track every single day, every single practice, and I put every practice in a visual perspective of the Olympic Games, and I perform under that pressure. So in the Olympic prelims, when they say on your mark, get set, and it starts pouring down rain out the blue.
Nothing. That's normal.
I bet I'm in lane 9 already.
Mm-hmm.
First round. It's raining. Mm-hmm. On your mark, I mean, clear blue skies.
Pouring down before your heat. I remember.
On your mark, get set, I said, really, God? Really like that? It's like that on me?
I had 50 seconds and I was out of here.
50 seconds, he could have held it off.
Yep.
He let it rain. But I was ready because I had already trained through every raining practice in Orlando. Every practice, you running with water up to your ankles.
Anyway.
And you have to figure out how to get the best out of yourself. So when I saw that rain coming, it didn't do nothing. It didn't even faze me. I'm like, good, let's go. I got mad.
Yeah, because we're good now. I prepared for this.
Yeah, exactly. So I said, I made it through that round, and we went to the semifinals. And the semifinals, was a tough round. Crazy rushing in my heat. She's crazy. But I knew it was crazy.
Who runs that fast?
She was crazy. And she was one of those people that I was talking about earlier, where you can get an eye on them and say, I got you. You believe it, you can achieve it. Yeah, she was one of them. I saw her going out crazy. Said she do that tomorrow. That's her ass.
Got it.
I said, she do that tomorrow. I got it. So true to form, she did it the next day.
You're right.
But I went into the race prepared to win.
Mm-hmm.
And I did everything within my power to do that. If you watch the race, you'll see I went from the 300 meter mark to the 380 mark, doing what I was supposed to do. Now, let me tell you what I can't control. I can't control what other people do.
Right.
I control me. You know what I mean? So I control myself.
Right.
And I like to tell this part of the story because I think this is true form of sportsmanship, and I think it's also a true form of determination, a true example of determination. Sonia Richards got third place. Sonia Richards Ross. She got third place at the 2008 Olympic Games. Now her whole life, she's wanted to be the Olympic champion. So she was little. Like when I was dreaming about being basketball, she was dreaming about running track.
And being an Olympic gold medal, right?
So this is her lifetime achievement. This is her lifetime dream. And in 2000, she'd been to the Olympics at that point 3 times.
With you, y'all made the same team, right?
Yeah, exactly. We made the same exact team. She hadn't secured the bag in those 2 Olympics. Neither had I, right? So she's at this point, but she got the bronze in 2008. And she knows what it feels like to go from winning a race to losing a race.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So that same mentality, I always tell people the equation of success doesn't change just because the story's not about me.
Wow.
She took the same exact determination, and she played. I guarantee you, when I passed her at 300 and something meters,
we played that clip.
I guarantee you, she had a split moment where she was like, "This is that same shit." No.
Right, not this shit again. No. Right.
And then it changed to what you just said. Not again.
Right.
And she used that as power. She used her loss as power. She used her loss. And I guarantee you she trained every day for those next 4 years with the reminder of that last 100 meters of the 2008 Olympic Games. Like, she used her loss as fuel. And I can't control the outcome of the race. I can just control my output.
Right.
So I put out everything I had. And on that day, she put out everything she had within the motivation and the drive that she had to win. And we both gave it our best.
Brilliantly
And so at the end of the day, she walks away the Olympic champion by medal, by winning standard.
Right.
But I walked away the Olympic champion by my standards.
Right.
I got the bronze medal coming back from 3 years of loss, 3 years of failure, 3 years of disappointment, a career that should have ended in 2008. I made it 4 years later, made it to the finals when nobody even believed in me anymore. People thought I was done. Like, it's a wrap. DEEDEE Trotter, who she's finished. Like, that was winning to me.
Yeah.
But the split second when I crossed the finish line, I felt disappointment for a brief second. Disappointment because I had planned the entire year to win.
Right. Right.
And having the race within my grasp, within 20 meters of the finish line, there's an immediate onset of disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
Then the disappointment turned into, what place did I get?
It's clicking.
Because I saw gold, and I'm like, I know I got silver then, right?
Right.
And so I have to watch the playback because they took a long time to put up second and third. So they said Christina Rogu, and I'm like, okay, bet. So
What's
Well,
the
my
right?
name, like, then it was I was like, okay, bet, because I was about to say. So then it went from disappointment to relief to feeling blessed and thankful, because the difference between me getting third and fourth and going home
Blink of an
completely
eye.
empty-handed was 0.2. So I wasn't feeling like, it's like, then it went to extreme tiredness because I had ran my heart out. I had ran 349s back to back to back, basically, and I was exhausted. And, then it went to just a feeling of pride, a sense of accomplishment, a sense of completion,
One of
and
the things, even when you completed your task, I love the way you challenged the norm with "Test me, I'm clean." Like, you challenge people to be like, yo, I'm going to go out here. I'm going to run with the best people in the world. I'm going to beat the best people in the world, and I'm going to do it clean. And I dare you to come try me, because I can do it better because I have an ability and a mindset to do it. And I think that is another thing that stood out, is that you did it in a way, not only was it your way, but you did it loud enough to say, I'm doing it the right way. And I dare you guys to try me. Right. And I think that sets up a level of greatness that far exceeds what people can recognize now. And what drove that?
That came from that instinct, or that natural, the natural part of me I told you about earlier. That's just like this person who likes things to be done right and fair, and try to right wrongs. That's me. And so when I was on an airplane flying one time to some location, I don't remember, but there was a thing with Marion Jones in a newspaper, and the guy next to me, or actually he was one seat behind me, he was reading the paper behind me, and he says, somebody said something about, they such and such cheated or whatever using dope. And then he said, they're all cheating. And I heard the dude say that, right?
That's
so
crazy.
I literally,
not knowing that you were seat up, like, yo.
No clue. I was a seat in front of him. And I turned around because it was like shock for a moment. Like, it was almost like the hood came out of me, like, what? Like, I had to tell him. So I turn around and I'm like, no, sir, we don't all cheat, because I'm an Olympic this. I started telling him, I was like, I have never used drugs. I will never use drugs. And I'm one of the best. And I said, so, and I got off the plane and I was like, I can't have people thinking that about me. Like, I can't have that on me. I was like, do what y'all do, but don't y'all
there.
All of us. Like, nah. I was like, oh, that's how people feel? Nah, not me. So I was like, you could test me, I'm clean. You could test me anytime, any day. So I was like, test me, I'm clean. So I literally went home that day and I started drafting the project. I put together the nonprofit organization. I put together T-shirts, wristbands. I started taking it. And the more research I did, I realized that high school kids were using drugs at a higher rate than professionals, because they're using them to get to the next level. And it goes under the radar because they're not really being tested at that level. But they get sick, they get roid rage, they get, they do damage to themselves. And I'm like, dang, I didn't know all that. So I turned it into a program. And I said, okay, we're going to take this program on the road. We're going to start educating these high school kids about the dangers of performance enhancement drugs and give them alternatives to how to enhance their performance naturally. And, just that kind of thing. Then it kind of took off on its own, because in 2007, Sports Illustrated caught a glimpse of it, and I came home, and this guy that was working the security line at the airport where you go through.
He's like, you the girl.
and the thing is, my face wasn't in the picture. It was me from the waist down.
Wow.
And he comes to
recognize that.
He saw my wristband when I was putting my stuff on the conveyor belt, and he says, I saw you at Sports Illustrated. And I said, really? He said, yeah, go to the magazine stand. He's like, you're in Sports Illustrated. I was like, what? So I go over to the magazine stand, and I grab the thing, front page of the intro page of not the front page of the magazine, but the first page.
Open cover. Yep.
It's me. It says grit from the wrist. DEEDEE Trotter represents clean sports, and it shows my test me I'm clean wristband. And I was like, this dude recognized my butt in my arm.
It be like that sometimes.
Hey, you're a real sports fan. Like, so I buy every one of them. I'm like, yay! And
I'm going to illustrate it, right?
and then from there on out, it was kind of like wristbands went all over the country. I literally had my mom shipping wristbands while I slept. It was crazy how many people were inspired to remove themselves from under that
cloud.
Yeah.
What do you feel like now, retired, that during your time in the career or in your profession that you were underappreciated, underrecognized for your contributions to the sport and all that you've done through the consistency of excellence in the sport?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't feel like with everything that I contributed to the sport independently and what I tried to do to reach others, I never felt that it was really supported the way that it could have been, and especially because what I was doing was so directly connected to such a positive thing. I'm not really one to complain about things. I use it all as motivation. That's just how I am. I'm always going to use every situation as motivation. I use it as motivation right now. You know, whatever came out of my career in running, whether I was recognized for it or not, it's what's pushing me today. But I feel like the athlete that I was paled in comparison to the person that I was to the sport. I brought in so many different positive facets. I was philanthropic on my own. I reached out, I helped others, I helped children, I built education programs. I created a nonprofit that supported the good of the betterment of sport, the betterment of the future of sports. You know, there was just so many things that I felt I contributed to the sport that didn't really get the recognition it deserved. Like, for example, I did all of those things, and I was never once USA Track and Field's humanitarian.
And I recognize that, to know that you were so vocal about positive things, especially with a generation of people with accomplishments, with receipts, how again, living it and looking back on it is two different things. But looking back on it, how do you internalize that?
You know, I like to say, you know, it was nothing personal against me. I do remember being reluctant to get into the sport of track and field because my first initial encounter with it was bias. And I didn't like that. I didn't like the feeling of that. But then over the years, I still witnessed it. Over the years, I tolerated it. Over the years, I endured it. And then at some point, it became, you know, directly towards me that I felt the bias. And I know that I don't feel like people were out to get me. I don't want to sound like that, because that's not the case. But I just felt like when you're focused on, when anybody has a focus, it's hard to see the other things that are going on. Mm-hmm. And I feel like my time during the sport, I was in a field with people, with athletes who they just wanted to focus more on. And that put me in a position to say, no matter how great I was, no matter how many times I've won, I remember doing an interview, and this is no disrespect to Sonya Richards, because she's a legend of her own. But I remember my greatest accomplishment at one point was the 2007 USA Outdoor Championship, where I ran a personal best of 49.4 seconds. And my interview after the race, my victory interview, I was asked, how did I feel about beating Sonya? It wasn't about me winning. It wasn't about my PR. It wasn't about my accomplishment. They wanted to know what I felt about her. Mm-hmm. And that just kind of speaks to the sentiment of what I faced throughout most of my career. Most of my career, no matter what I accomplished, I was always kind of battling or fighting to get any recognition that I shouldn't really have had to fight for, in light of that everything I was doing was for the sport.
And at a consistency of excellence. I think that in any endeavor of I was watching Viola Davis say the other day, if I'm the Black Meryl Streep, then pay me like Black. I got the Tonys and I got the it's like, hey, listen, I got hardware too, and I got the records and I've got the titles. So pay me like I've got the records and I've got the titles. And so even creating that same space and that same energy in looking back on it, what do you think if you could encourage the younger DeeDee? What would the current DeeDee tell the DeeDee then after she won her USA Championship in 2007?
I would tell her, don't do anything that you don't want to do if you're relying on recognition to achieve it. Do it because it's what you want to do in your heart. And even if nobody ever sees it or recognizes it, you'll be proud and you'll be happy with what you accomplished. It took me into my adult years to feel that way, to know that everything I was doing, knowing that everything I was doing then was because I wanted to do something for the greater good, and feeling like no one would help me or no one would support it, or that people weren't supporting it or helping me the way that I felt they should, being who I was to the sport. And that took me a long time to just say, don't worry about that. Don't worry about
that. Lead it, right.
Don't worry about whether they recognize it. God recognizes it. Don't worry about whether or not they put value in it. The 15-year-old kid who took the message and who did positive things with their life with it recognizes it. But that wasn't what I was living then. But it took me into my later adult years to recognize the value of it and say, don't worry about whether they saw your greatness. Don't worry about whether they recognized your greatness. Don't worry about if you started the nonprofit of the year and did all this stuff like that and they never recognized your greatness. Don't worry about it, because God recognized your greatness. And people all over, whether it's the whole world recognizes you when you walk into a restaurant or not, or the few people that ran up to you in Walmart because they recognized you. It don't matter.
As I recruit throughout the world, like they know you have absolutely inspired a generation. And I think that with your story, when they recognize the genuineness and the uniqueness of how you ascribed and how you got to where you got to, I think you're going to continue to motivate a generation of people that while you were in it, you might not have gotten it, but it's going to come. And that was one of the things, like I said, I wanted to make sure we did was give you your flowers in this thing, because it's you have in your legendary mindset pushed yourself to lengths that is going to go far beyond when you were an active athlete.
Thank you, Carjay. I really appreciate this. I've been extremely blessed, and I know for a fact that my purpose in life was not track and field. My gift in life was track and field. One of my gifts in life was track and field. And from that gift, I've been able to grow and give more gifts to other people. What I do now that I don't run is so valuable to me. I inspire people, I motivate people, I encourage people to be their best and to reach their dreams and not to give up on themselves. There's more power than that I've ever obtained from any race. So those races and everything I experienced through that gift of running has been just a complete blessing to me. And the recognition I get for that is basically just watching somebody develop and grow into the champion that I know and that they know they can be. So blessings come off.
And I think that even further signs your signature on your greatness is that you recognize that your giftings just make way for you to have a greater purpose in life and help more people. And that's, again, why you were so important to get on this and make sure that people understood the greatness of who you are and what you brought to not just track and field, but to the world and to a generation of youth that definitely look up to you and recognize it. Shout out, visit DeeDeeTrotter.com for any updates, reach out to her for any speaking engagements, guys. You won't be disappointed. Again, DeeDee, thank you for joining us in the Legends Lounge.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. It's been a